Hello and welcome back to Gulotta Studios. I'm glad you could make it today. Happy Wednesday. Every Wednesday I try to make one of these. My apologies about last Wednesday. I was not able to make a YouTube video. I was traveling and I had trouble with my live feed, which is on Facebook every Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. I had a terrible time with it and was having trouble with uploads. So I figured, let me skip that one and come back to this week instead of last week. So here we are. We've got Mammoth Cave and we're almost done. This layer now is going to be the details layer. So I'm going to be using some very small brushes and we're going to be using a little bit of each of the colors that were used to create this painting in order to get those fine details. So all of these are Old Holland paints, of course, and we start off with a little Payne's Gray. And again, just a little bit. We really don't need a lot for today. And we're also going to need some Cold Gray. I'm actually trying to use up this tube of it. Someday. Someday. Some Warm Gray, which is more of a beige. Yeah, it's what most people would call a beige. I'm just putting just a little lump on my palette here. My palettes do tend to be very messy. I put a little bit on each one. Yellow Ochre. And this is the light version. And of course our highlight color, which is the Old Holland Yellow Light, which is more of a bone white. At least that's what I would have named it, but yeah. That's okay. Doesn't matter what they name it. Makes no difference. It's the paint and the quality of the paint that matters. All right, so for today, I'm going to be doing some fine detailing. So I need some fine brushes. I have here a number 2 Pro Stroke. This is a red sable. And as you can see, it's a very fine little brush. And I'm also probably going to end up using this little guy, which is a number 2 Royal Sable by Langnickel. This is almost not a brush at all. It's so fine. I know I'm going to want some longer bits here and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over to the other side of this area here, pull out this brush. This is a 00 Sable round, and I'm putting the brushes in size order. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. All right, and 3 brushes. I'm also going to need this little guy. This is going to probably be my largest brush. It's a 0 Isaby Isocryl. Again, those are mainly used for acrylics, but I find them very handy with oil paint. And I also want, just for some small details of that limestone, and because that limestone is more of a staining than anything else, I'm going to use a very small bristle, a number 1 bristle brush, and that's going to be used for the limestone. All right, where to start? Well, first we start by thinking about where the colors are. There's a lot of gray here. There's going to be a lot of gray here. There's also a lot of the yellow ochre, and those things are not as clearly defined because they're the face of the stone itself. So I'm going to use my largest brushes for those. These brushes are going to be for my highlights. I'm going to be using this for the Old Holland Yellow Light. I'm going to be using this brush for my Payne's Gray, and then this one is going to be for the Warm Gray, for those little details I want here and there. All right, so we've got a plan. I'm going to start from dark to light as I usually do, and there is no medium placed into the paint. I do not want any medium in the paint. I want this paint to have a nice, dry, matte finish. Right now, all I'm doing is I'm taking this very dark color and making very fine lines that mark off where the darks are deepest. And it's very exciting for me to finally have this one done, and then I can move on to the next Mammoth Cave piece. Not sure which one that will be. I'm probably going to use one of the ones that I prepped for unnatural colors. I like to go back and forth with that between natural colors and unnatural colors. There we go. Just to bring that dark in is enough to show that this goes back into shadow. This is just the details, Here I don't want to get into broad areas, so I have to curb my enthusiasm for the paint just a little bit. Because I love painting. I love the act of painting. You know, for me it's not just the final image why I do this. Nothing could be further from the truth. I just love painting. There we go. Just going to bring these shadows in just a bit. I want them very deeply established because, you know, the shadows in a cave tend to be very deeply contrasts, very deep contrasts. You know, when they use lighting in a cave, the lighting is usually very bright, but there is no other light. There's very little ambient light in the cave. It isn't there. So you end up with very, very stark, deep shadows way back in here. And even so, I'm not using a black. I'm using a Payne's gray, which is a little different. It looks black, but it's not. It's almost a charcoal color, but with a little more of almost a purplish tone to it, I'd like to say. And then under here, I want to get this in, right in here. Use my finger again. There we go. Always using my finger. Ah, there's my rag. Yay. All right. My handy little rag has saved the day. All right. Now I'm going to bring this deep, deep color right into here, forming some sharper areas. Bring those out where they belong. There we go. Now if I have to use some more paint, I can. Kind of hoping to avoid that a bit. But you never know. You never know. Here I want to reestablish this dark. Now we're bringing the painting into its final focus. This is the ending focus for this painting. Otherwise, I'd have to use toothpicks. I don't really want to do that. This brush has a sharp tip, but it's also soft enough to blend just a bit. And the nice thing is this painting is at this point very, very dry. It's very, very dry. Yeah. Now this brush is getting beat up. Yeah, no matter. No matter. Let me grab this one. This will do. A little firmer brush. It's a bristle brush. I just have to be a little extra careful with it to make sure I get a nice sharp line. So if I don't get that sharp line, this isn't going to look right. There we go. Yeah, it just takes a little more work to do that. But it's less work to blend it. Learn something new every day. There we go. That's a good thing. Would love to get some live feeds up, but I'm going to have to rely on Facebook for that for the moment. Seem to be a lot of rules about live feeds on YouTube. That's all right. You know, I'll take what they'll give me. I'm not sure why they have those rules. I'm sure they could explain it to me. I would just hope they do so kindly. There we go. So now we're coming into these deep shadows in here. And all we're doing is we're placing in some pure paint in order to give a further illusion of focus. You want people to be able to look at the painting and understand what's there. This very dark patch right here, which is great. It's exactly what I need. There we go. Bring that around. I got this little block here. You know, I'm still using those footnotes. Those footnotes are wonderful when doing this sort of work. Yeah, I'm just going to bring that in. Just to deepen these shadows right here. Right under this block of stone. There we go. And right now what I'm doing is I'm establishing the brush strokes. What is now part of the path and what is part of the shadow. And that deepens the color. There we go. There. We're just going to smooth that in by hand, literally. One of the reasons why I love finger painting, because you can get some interesting effects with that you really can't get with other tools. And there's something wonderful about using the primary human tool, the hand. There we go. Sounds good to me. So we'll just take that for what it's worth. There was one really dark spot right there. There's not a lot of cracks per se in the stone. Alright, I'm going to go up here and establish that seam. Some of these seams went pretty deep. Others did not. There. Alright. Good. I'm sharpening this edge here. Sharpen it here too. It needs a little help. It needs some help. going to follow that line. Make sure it's nice and clean. You want that. Now at this point, my brush strokes count tremendously. Whenever you're at the point where you're doing your last details, those last brush strokes are going to leave their mark. So you want to make sure that they're doing what you want them to do. If your brush strokes don't make sense, the painting won't either. There. Darken some of this just a bit. There we go. So I've got these nice, dark, clean lines here, except for this one. There we go. That's much better. And the shape of the brush really helps. More so than the other one did. I think the other one was designed more for mediums. I figured I'd give it a try. It was a brush type I don't normally use. And that's what we do. We experiment. We check things out. And if they work, we use them. If they don't, we put them aside. Try to figure out what we might use them for. Nothing wrong with that. A little experimentation. I want this whole thing to look like it's emerging from that shadow. So again, I've got to use these small brushes to get some detailed strokes in there. Just like that. Little fine details. Just going to dab the tip of the brush. Just a small amount of paint. There we go. That's much better. It's amazing how wall-like this structure was. It was really fascinating. Well, otherwise I guess I wouldn't be painting it, would I? So, one moment. There we go. That's better. Had to plug in my machine. Just to give you a little show here, you can see how some of these details have become sharper. And we're going to continue that as we go along. All right, now where's that little brush that I had? There you are. I didn't put it in the right place. That's all right. I found it. That's what counts. So as you can see, those little details are now really coming in. We're getting sharp edges to everything that needs a sharp edge. And it's not always obvious what does and what doesn't. You know, sometimes you work things out and you're like, "Ooh, that didn't work." So you got to redo them. That's all right. They can be another part of your painting. Now, if this was a very imaginative piece, if this was a piece that I was working on and not trying to depict the caves, I could do whatever I want. Any mistake that I made could then be, used as further inspiration, maybe. But that's not the case today. Today I'm trying to get things settled here. Trying to get this whole thing settled in so that I've got all of my details in. And then we'll have a finished painting. That will be very nice. Need a little more Payne's Gray. It's always best to have too little than too much. That way you don't waste a lot of color. And again, just the tip of the brush. You don't want this to get into the ferrule. Nice sharp edges. It is stone. So you don't want these thin little edges that are not sharp. There we go. And you get some color in here. And then, you guessed it, I'm going to be finger painting again. In just a moment. It's just what I do. It's my bad habit. I had an art teacher who hated it when I did that. I was in high school. He used to get upset with me for doing that. But then he liked things very neat. You know, his own workstation was always very clean. You know, and some people work that way. I don't. I'm very cluttered. I admit it. I'm a very cluttered kind of guy. There we go. Now we've got that shadow nicely in place. There. We're just gonna almost glaze it. Brings it as marching off into the distance. Just a thin coating of paint here. Just to get that last bit. Alright. Now this brush doesn't have a lot of paint left on it. But I still need a little sharpening of this area right here. Just a bit, just a touch. I'm going to bring it in like that. There we go. That's better. And bristle brushes are so noisy. They really are. They're very noisy. Alright, now I'm ready to start on this whole thing. Ooh, it's going to take a bit. Bring in a sharp edge, like before. And bring it all the way around. I want to sharpen this. There. Small brush, small effects, small details. All these little bumps, smoothing some of the lines where the rock was smoother. Yeah. But I'm not going into the walls themselves as much, and that's because they were solid walls. They weren't broken up as much. There was some crumbling here and there. There were some spots here and there that had a little deeper shadow, but I want the interim cuts along the walls to be more apparent and deeper. So they're my focus for right now. There we go. Now it is true I would not use my thumb or my fingers if I was using lead white paint. That would be foolish. So I don't use lead white when I know I'm going to be doing that. Even if I don't have a cut on my hand. Human beings touch their face all the time. I don't want to have that hassle. I do use lead white sometimes, just not very often. When I do, oh, I need it. It's wonderful. But that doesn't mean that I use it all the time. There brush, just a hair. There we go. Much better. Hooray. And you can see this detailing helps to bring things into focus. That's really what detailing is. If you keep that in mind, you're less likely to get lost in your own details. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to get lost. Yeah. Otherwise, you can over-detail the work. And once it's over-detailed, there's very little pulling back from that. You can work on a painting too much. There's some holes in the rock here. I'll bring that out just a bit. Some of these little spaces. Some of the holes were very deep. Some were not. That's all a matter of what I'm seeing still from the texture of my footnotes for this painting. It's an interesting challenge, talking and painting at the same time. It's like, running a race and chewing gum. I admit, I'm not particularly good at that. Not really doing painting Olympics here. There's good reason for that. Painting is something that is best done when you're taking your time, focusing on what needs to be there. And that can be a real challenge, especially when doing instruction or anything like that. I think I've made more mistakes doing instruction than anything else. There we go. Just putting in these little details has really helped this particular painting along. It's amazing what just a millimeter wide line in paint can do for a work. It's also amazing how little paint is actually required when doing so. Oh, I'm going to have fun cleaning this brush, I can tell you that right now. I just got a glob of paint right on my ferrule. And for those of you who've been watching me for a while, you know how much I don't like that. Oh, it takes so long to get it out of the ferrule. That's all right. A little extra time cleaning brushes is not really a big deal. There. Just a little hairline crack here. All right, now I just gotta take a moment here. I'm gonna bring in some of these lines that were in the floor. And because they're sharper lines, they start to define things. Yeah. All right. Beginning to like that. Just bring that in. Just like that. All right, good. Okay. All right, I would say I'm done with this brush, so I'm going to clean it off real quick. Just a little turpentine. There we go. There. I've used other thinners, but I always go back to turpentine. I've gotten used to the smell of it. And if you get really good turpentine, it doesn't smell that bad. Either that or I'm really used to it at this point. Okay, the next thing I want to do is get some of the edgings of the cold gray. So I'm going to use my Isabi here. I'm just going to reestablish some little details where they belong. I want to put this in areas where perhaps the gray needs to come out a little more. Back in here. Little tiny details. There. All right. Yeah, the gray doesn't need a lot of help. But I don't want it to get lost with the other colors when they come in. So I want those other colors to accentuate the grays rather than cover them over. There's not a lot that needs doing here. The grays look like they're in pretty good shape. There we go. I'll bring that in. That's tidier. Bring this one in just a bit. Could use a little extra gray. Same with here. I could use some extra grays. And here again, the brush dictates the kinds of details I can make and how they work together, how they blend with everything else. I don't want to lose my darks. I'm trying to be cautious with that. If I lose all my darks, nothing else is going to look good in this painting. Don't want this to be too abstract. There we go. Yeah, that tightens it up a little bit. Up here needs a little tightening. And the real trick is going to be getting that gypsum in. So that may have to wait until next time. There we go, got this chunk of gray here. Much better. There, much, much better. Reestablish some of these rocks back in here. Soften up some of these browns. There we go. So we may not be finishing this painting this session. There may be one more to go. And that one will be concentrating on the gypsum flowers themselves. I'm just checking that out because I'm looking at the time and going, Oh, it's been 20 minutes already. More than. Get this a little more gray. A little more gray. But still, it has the influence of that limestone yellow ochre. That's important. It's very similar to doing landscape painting. Very, very similar. Saw something. Needed correcting here. There we go. And while I'm down here, I figured I'd work on some of this. A little less of that. This is also a time when you can make some nice corrections to what you've done. Another nice thing about painting, you can fix your mistakes. Hard to do that in life, isn't it? Hard to fix mistakes. You can try and try. With painting, it's a lot easier. It's one of the reasons I love to paint. It's certainly easier than fixing mistakes in drawing. I love to draw. Those of you who've known me for a while know that I love drawing. But it is much more difficult to fix mistakes with drawing than when you're painting. It's a lot easier this way. I'm going to deepen some of this here. I want this to look more solid. It's looking a little ghostly here. I don't want that. This has to look very, very solid here. And that gray really does the job. Go up into here. All this stuff. All right. Bring this in nice and streaky. There we go. Get a little more gray under there. Give it more of a stone look rather than a wood look. That's better. There we go. Much, much better. All right. And reestablish some gray up here too. This area was all like bumpy, almost like the floor here. And that's the next area I need to hit with the grays. First I'm going to use the cold grays, and I'm going to use the warm grays as well. Just a little back and forthing here. There we go. All right, good. There we go. I've got my grays reestablished and more detailed, which is exactly what I wanted. All right, now I had to check the time. I got a lot of things to do. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with that ochre. And what I want to do is take my palette knife here and mix it just a bit with the warm gray. So we're going to mix the two and get a light ochre. I'm going to tamp it down just a bit because that ochre is very, very strong. Very, very strong. There we go. That's much better. Clean off my knife. It's always good to have rags, paper towels, things like that around you when you're painting. So what we're going to do is we're going to establish the details of this, and then the next time we're going to finish off with just the old Holland yellow light. That's what we're going to do. We're going to finish that off there. These heavy textures here. And then that will complete the painting. Just the tip of my fingernail, so I don't cut them too short. If I cut my fingernails too short, then I can't use them as a mole stick. Seepage there. And that's really what this limestone is water seeping from the ceiling and then dripping down, carrying all the sediments and chemicals from the rocks with them. In this case, limestone. Dissolving the limestone and leaving it behind as it evaporates. I think I've already talked about that, so I'm not going to repeat myself. There we go. Bring that in. Just so it shows up a little better. There we go. All right. Now I do hope people do take the time to check out the caves themselves. They are worth the trip. Just be ready for a hike. You know, it's not like 100 feet into a cliff or something like that. No, this is miles. You're marching for miles, uphill, downhill, all over the place. And yeah, it looks like hills when you're down there. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can't recommend it enough. If you ever get the chance to go to Mammoth Cave, do it. Check it out. Take a look. See for yourself. You know, you'll understand why I became so obsessed with them. With the caves. They're worthy of obsession. There we go. Just bringing things into focus here. And lines in. And I may as well do this while I'm here. Don't think I'm going to need that warm gray anywhere here though. What I needed it for was mixing with the yellow ochre to give it a proper color, lighten it up a little bit, dampen down the yellows. Just so I can get these details in. Sometimes that's more important. Sometimes that could be the most important thing that you do. Look, there was a sharp edge there. We didn't even know that until just now. It was there, though. And my footnotes told me it was there. There we go. And bring that in. There. Get that in. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I don't want to keep people waiting too long. I don't know if it's true. I've heard shorter videos are more popular. They're certainly easier for me to upload, that's for sure. That's a real truth. It can take hours for me to upload this. This little 1 hour thing, and oh, it takes such a long time. And get some of the staining on this proper. Good. And next time I'll be able to really focus on those crystals, and that's going to take quite a bit of work. There's a lot of those crystals all through here. Like I said, I was hoping to be finished today, but no, not today. I want everything here dry before I start mucking with anything else. So I'm going to leave a note to myself and say, hey Dave, you're almost done with this painting. You just have one color to go. And then everything's in focus. And hopefully I'll listen to myself. I don't always. There we go. And bring this down. Oh, look, another sharp edge. There we are. Good, that's much better. Yeah. Little details. It's the little details that bring things in. A bit of color here. A bit of light scattered on something over there. Now to paint in the caves, I had to get special permission from the National Park Service, and I'm still very thankful, very, very thankful for that opportunity. And I told them it was going to take a long time to finish this because I really want to give it my very best shot. Everyone's in a hurry. Not for something like this. I'm not in a hurry. But this, I wanted this to absolutely be as best as I could make it. And at the same time, I didn't want to spend the next 10 years underground. That wouldn't have been good. Otherwise, that's exactly what I'd have to do. So I've had to rely on those footnotes of mine very deeply for these. Alright, just a little bit more to go. And then I'll be very happy with this. Now, I've been looking at this piece and trying to think of what makes sense and what doesn't. What could I fix? Because before I put my name on this, before I sign this thing, I want to make sure that this is looking how I want it to look. Otherwise, it's not done. Most of this I'm going to leave very chaotic. Almost like clouds in the sky. There's a sky of stone. There we go, get some little details up in there. Alright, we're almost done. Hey, see, I just touched my face. If I'd been lead white, I'd be in trouble. As it is, I'm going to need more soap. There we go. Get this going here. That there. Alright, now I get to dab a little bit of this into that floor. Limestone dust, gypsum dust, all kinds of stuff on that stone floor. All kinds of stuff. And of course the lighter colors are over this way, because here there were a lot of shadows from this side. So I have to show that as well. And just a touch of perspective. These lines should get thinner as I go on, these waves in the floor. Like so. Almost like ripples on a lake. These are stone ripples, although formed by water. There. All right. And there we have it. So next week, I will be finishing this piece. So I'm going to leave these two little brushes aside as a note to myself that that's what I want to use. I'm going to take the paint that I want to use and put that with them. So this way I know for sure what I'm doing next Wednesday. Next Wednesday here on YouTube, I will be finishing up this painting, putting in the details of the gypsum flowers, all these little crystals here, and then the painting will be finished. And I can move on to the next one. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I know I've enjoyed making it. Thank you all. Have a fantastic week. See you next Wednesday here and Facebook Live, working on an odd piece here. Ooh, crazy colors. There we go. So, you all have a fantastic time and happy painting, everyone. Take care.